Good afternoon, duelists. This is Nuclear Whale. Today we're going to take a look at Istrakhan, a heavily modular archetype with a large amount of different possible variations. Istrakhan is based off of the game Boktai, and at the time of recording has over 90 cards. Due to this, we will not be able to view the entire archetype today, but we will instead view a small selection of the cards that work together as a modular sub-archetype. Joining me today will be the archetype's creator, Shadross. As promised, with me here today is Shadross. Say hello, Shadross.
Oh,
Alright, so as we said, today's archetype is Istrakhan. It's a heavily modular archetype, mostly focusing on this card right here, Istrakhan Hunter Django. So, with that said, Shadross is going to go first and show us how things are done. Now, Django is a bit of an interesting card, and I think that since we're most likely going to see it during your turn, let's start talking about it as soon as it shows up. So, I know that Istrakhan was inspired by a game called Boktai, right?
what I based it off of? I don't know. I just felt like I loved the game. It was a part of my childhood, so I'm like, well, we'll make an archetype based around it.
Now,
On the subject of Django, though, I am kind of jealous that you drew him because I kind of did not. So we'll see what happens.
yeah, we'll have to see. The good news is I have no idea what I'm doing, and everything that's going to happen during this duel is my first experience playing the deck. So, we'll have to see. But
So I will start off with my first consistency booster here to hope for the best.
that's probably wise. So, Inventory of the Istrakhan Hunter is, by all accounts, a pretty damn good draw card. It recycles itself,
It's really
and
good.
it's basically a D draw. So, and this is kind of an overarching
Like,
theme with Istrakhan in general. Istrakhan is probably one of the most obscenely consistent archetypes anywhere. It has so many consistency cards that it's like 50% consistency card. It's a lot of consistency, and would I be correct in saying that that's because of how many dead draws this deck has?
like, let's be honest, a lot of the frames are kind of dead cards, or all the gun parts are dead unless you throw them into the grave.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. This is Oh, by the way, I'm gonna ash that.
Oh, wait, you modified the build. All right, I can respect that.
Um, that's the thing about consistency cards. They're not so consistent once this thing's around. But yeah, so Istrakhan is a very consistent deck for obvious reasons. It's just consistency out the ass all the time, 24/7, unless this happens.
So, I guess I'll use the effect of inventory.
Yep, banishing a card to add it back to the
Um,
hand. This
yeah.
is again an insanely good draw card. Luckily, I'm pretty sure it has a HOPT, right? Can you reveal the card just so we can show that off?
Yeah, so the recycle effect is not a once per turn, but the actual D draw effect is a once per turn.
All right. So basically, Inventory of the Istrakhan Hunter is an insane card that lets you get a lot of consistency per turn, but it forces you to have cards in your graveyard to use it with, which isn't always easy because there's a lot of cards that you want in your graveyard in this deck. So let's see what I got. All right. So I'm pretty sure that this is actually a very good hand. All right. So first of all, let's activate Twin
And like,
Twisters, discarding Matenko.
got my twin twisters.
Yeah, I mean, it was either that or there weren't that many useful cards that could have been. So, and now I normal summon Django. Now, Django is a very interesting card for a lot of reasons, but most notably about it is, well, frankly, first the consistency effect that lets it add a Gundel Soul card from your deck to your hand, and also, when you don't have any cards in your extra deck, it is immune to being destroyed by card effects, which is incredibly useful. So, what made you decide to make Django defend himself in the way they did with the no extra deck thing?
So, it was like, it's a boss monster, yet he didn't have protection. And he's a core card, so that's kind of a huge deal. Because you don't really summon a lot of monsters in Istrakhan. You normally don't.
Yeah, it's fair to say that Istrakhan usually summons like one or two monsters per turn on a good turn. It's not a very
Yeah.
fast deck.
So to compensate, I'm like, okay, so he probably needs a protection effect. Really good as is, so I didn't want just to give him it. was like, okay, what's a weird stipulation I could use? Modularity of the deck.
So in
And
order
that's
to
when I was like,
let's go ahead.
just to do that, I was like, you know what? We'll say that for the extra deck. That way it immediately separates extra deck builds from regular builds.
All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It makes Istrakhan a modular deck in a lot of ways. So if you want to have an extra deck, your Django is going to be a lot more vulnerable, and you're going to be dying to strikes and stuff. So I'm going to activate Gun Del Sol, targeting Django, of course, and I'm going to add a Solar Gun card, except for the Gun Del Sol, from my deck to my hand. So, all right, let's see what Solar Gun is the first one. It's Fighter, right?
So it'll go Fighter to Knight to Crusader to Dragoon.
All right. Okay. So Gun Del Sol is just, your average consistency card. Target a Istrakhan Hunter, add a gun frame. It's very straightforward and probably one of the simpler cards in the deck, but that doesn't make it any worse. It's just all around a very good card, right?
Oh yeah, well, considering it searches every solar gun part.
Alright, so I'm going to equip Fighter to Django.
You activate Fighter, its first effect will go off. All the base level gun parts have this effect.
Alright, so once per turn. Oh, okay. So when I activate it, I add a Django to my hand. As I said, this deck has a shit ton of consistency. So now I have a Django.
It's all to compensate for the several engines, I would say it has.
Yeah, I'd call them small engines. Alright, battle phase. I attack. I'm sure that this hand was better than what I just did, but I don't know how to play the deck, so we're going to have to see what Shadross does when he unbricks. I set a card and then my turn.
I'll be going to my draw phase. Will do. Alright. So we'll start off with Fighter.
Alright, you get in that Django. Actually,
oh
wait. Distraction tactics. So I can target one I destroy. Oh wait, no, it does monsters. Damn. Never mind. Go ahead. You saw nothing.
I unfortunately don't think that's going to be of much use for you in this fight.
I don't think it will be either anymore. I thought it was a lot more useful than that. All right. So since I already revealed that we have this, and frankly I'm not going to be using this turn, let's talk about Istrakhan Hunter's distraction tactics. So I destroy one Solar Gun card equipped to Django I control and one monster my opponent controls. It's a quick play, and then during the end phase of the turn that you activate this, you add a Solar Gun from your deck to your hand, because it's basically a very good one-for-one card that works as a good interruption and also gives you a bit of consistency boost. If this actually worked, I would have been in a very good place. Unfortunately,
the only downside to it, Django unequipped.
Yeah. Which, frankly, isn't that big of a deal if what I just did worked. Unfortunately, it did not. So, let's see what happens here.
Right, so now that I normal summon Django, I gotta search out the Solar Gun Del Sol.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And, of course, since you normal summon Django, you get another gun. So, the gun frames kind of become bigger and bigger and bigger. So Fighter's the little tiny baby one, and they just get bigger from there. So let's talk about the Solar Gun frame family. So obviously Fighter isn't that impressive. It gives a 500 attack boost, and if there's another monster in the same column as it during the start of the battle phase, change that monster to face down defense position and negate its effects until the end of the battle phase. Which basically means that if he entered the battle phase right now, we'd both be in defense position, I think.
Kind of be very counterproductive.
Yeah. So instead, he's going to have to screw me up with one of the other Solar Gun frames, which means that he's going to use, well, and we're back. Okay, so as we were saying, the Solar Guns just get bigger and bigger, and eventually he's going to be able to handle my Django easily because his Django is going to be that much better equipped than mine. So let's see what he does from here.
So, is the fact that the frames upgrade and all the other solar gun parts in relation to the game, because a lot of these effects I base off of the original game. You go through, you pick up parts for your gun, and they slowly, progressively get stronger variations of like the same type. Solar gun lines are these upgrades you would get in the game.
Of course. So Solar Gun Frame Fighter is just your starting game wooden sword equipment, and eventually you're going to get the bigger and badder swords that, kill dragons and shit.
Yes. So just to help consistency boost, I'm gonna play inventory again. Frame that I added through Gundel Soul.
Another thing to note about the gun frames is that the bigger ones, if there's no card in the graveyard, or if their littler version isn't in the graveyard when they're activated, then you can't activate them. And if they are sent to the graveyard and there isn't a little one there, they banish themselves, which basically prevents skipping a step because you don't want to go right to Crusader.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting way to get around something. Oh no, oh boy.
What did you do?
You gotta play this with Solar Tree.
So your LP is lower than mine, so you're a Darkest Arcana monster, which Django is light, so it doesn't matter, would gain 500 attack. This is because of the modularity of the deck. There's different decks that Solar Tree helps out a lot, and Darkest Arcana is much more benefited by this, or benefited in a different way than regular Arcana is. Well,
so it has several things it can add, but I'm gonna go for the cult classic here of a Solar Fruit card.
Alright, and the Solar Fruits are bullshit. I love them, and they're great. Some of them are the worst.
And the funny part is they're all generally 1-for-1s or really weak, but they just due to the utility and the versatility of them and all of that fun stuff, except for Solar Fruit, which I just added.
Okay.
Pretty. They're tame. It's just the utility of it. I have no excuses for.
So Solar Nut is you send a Solar Gun from your deck to the graveyard, which pretty much just lets you skip a step. It's great.
Originally in the game,
yeah,
the original game required you to have a Solar Gun off of actual sunlight. It had a solar detector on the cartridge. It was a Game Boy game. And a Solar Nut just kind of lets you circumvent being in the sunlight to charge your gun.
Oh, all right. So basically, it helps speed things up both in the real game by making you not go outside because this is a video game. Who goes outside playing a video game? And also to basically let you skip a step and play your game much faster here.
So by sending Night to the grave, I can add one card that lists it like in its card text, which would be Crusader.
Yep. So Night causes an attack gain of 1,000, and it can attack all monsters your opponent controls in the same column or an adjacent column once each. And if it declares an attack, has Utopia Lightning effect. So it's very useful. It turns Django into a 3,000 attack monster that attacks everything. Or not everything, but 3 monsters if you have 3 monsters next to each other. But that's small fries compared to Crusader. It gains 1,500 attack at the start of the battle phase. If there's any cards that your opponent controls in the same column or an adjacent column to this monster, flip them face down, and they cannot be flipped face up by me. So, again, this is another badass card, though it just gets bigger and badder from here. So, with this, Django would become a 4,500 attack monster, and that would be, 35. I can't do math. But yeah, let's see how he goes from here.
So, interesting predicament to deal with Django right now.
All right.
Card that it's a solid out to things.
All right, so he's going to use Grenade Bomb, and Bomb destroys all cards in the same column as this Ichrican Hunter card, which is this, unfortunately. And also, you can banish it during the end phase.
No. Here's the thing. I didn't realize this until right now.
What?
Gun cards?
Uh-huh.
But this is a Ditto. So, whoops.
Oh. All right. Well, that bit you in the ass. Luckily, I believe that you still have a way around this. Yeah, because right, that's a quick effect. So Django can move himself to an adjacent unoccupied monster zone to help use his solar gun frames, and it can do it during either player's turn. So if he wanted to, he could move Django over here and use the 3-column effect to hit me. But at the same time, I could also move him to this column, and then we're both boned. So it's a very interesting design choice that makes the Ditto much more interesting.
Effective to Django to move him over
Alright.
one.
Now, when a solar gun card is activated, you have to destroy all other solar guns that's equipped to the Django that you control. So, fighter goes away. Those boosts do not stack.
It's equipped.
Uh,
Equip it to the Django.
Oh, you didn't equip it? Oh, you didn't.
Nope, I just used it to search out the Django.
Alright, so never mind. He does keep fighter. It's basically all about resource management.
So I will use the Effective Crusader to equip it. Ending the main phase if you would like to chain.
Chain. I move Django over here.
An issue. I'm going to just end my turn.
Alright. Alright, activate Solar Nut.
Yeah, since you do not have fighter in the grave, you're going to have to start there.
Unfortunately. Send fighter. Add the red one. Tribute summon. Effect Django. So Django can normal summon itself if you control no monsters, but since it's level 6, you can just normal summon it, so if you need to, you can get an extra Django surge by just normal summoning. So I add Gun Del Sol to my hand.
Also, that was mostly done to prevent spamming him easily.
Yeah.
But there are ways to do it, such as tributing over, like, let's say, Lita, when we would draw her.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so now I activate Gun Del Sol.
Yep, that's fine.
Activate this. Equip.
Okay.
Activate this. Equip.
Alright.
Activate this. Equip. Alright, so now that I have Dragoon, Django gains 2,000 attack, and when I start my battle phase, I send all other cards in the column or in the adjacent column to the graveyard. So that basically means I can really mess him up. So unfortunately, he has Crusader, so when I do this, he flips me face down. Although, how does this actually work? Do two Djangos that are... Do they chain to each other?
Fine on chain order.
Alright, I enter my battle phase. Dragoon effect.
Then I'll chain mine to yours.
Yeah, I cannot activate this effect.
I believe it's a mandatory effect, and I believe you'd have priority in that sense.
And chain to Django. Move here.
And go to move him over.
Stupid. Alright.
So both effects will go through.
So I'm just flip face down. I can't change my battle position.
You will flip Dragoon down too, I believe.
And Crusader was equipped, so it's also sent. Oh wait. Yeah. If an equipped card is sent, then...
Continuous spells wouldn't leave by that. It just would lose its equip target.
Alright. So now I have my turn. Unfortunately, I can't change Django or Dragoon attack, I don't think. So I could be in the spot of bother.
Pick of the century.
Alright. That hurts.
So I'll use the effective fighter.
That's a lot. I'm about to get destroyed.
Django for my graveyard.
Yep. So this is where the consistency comes in. A lot of the cards that you can draw just lead back to Django. So as long as once you have your graveyard set up, you're gonna have a Crusader going every turn, or a Dragoon going every turn. Once Django Ragnar, he's not gonna stop anytime soon. So
Cluster Soldier in that sense, to where once it gets started, it's hard for it to lose its core pieces.
It's a lot of consistency, and it's pretty fun. So he's going to Dragoon me. I believe.
Oh yeah, to get Dragoon, Crusader, and then I will play Dragoon to equip, sending Crusader to grave.
So,
leave me with 4,000.
So what's the deal with Crusader and Knight? Because they're not really all that related. Knight turns Django into a multi-attacking monster that's basically a giant ETL, and Crusader is kind of just a bigger fighter. It's kind of a weird line.
So the weird, when I was designing it, so in the original game, the Dragoon and Crusader, and like that whole line, could do two things. Game, the shoot button, if you tapped it, it would shoot a single shot. The shot could stun enemies if hit from behind.
Alright.
Held the shoot button, it would unleash a spread to range, but did a lot more damage.
So you just tried to kind of incorporate both of its things into one effect.
Kind of why it alternated between them a bit.
Oh, okay. So fighter has the kind of, yeah, I get what you're saying. So you go from one effect that's the hold down and the other one that's the spread.
So then I'll go to the battle phase, and then I'll trigger Dragoon's effect.
And I get hit in the face by 4,000 attacker. So this is where
this actually will showcase the other effect of Solar Tree now, because now that my life points are barely higher, Django gets 500 more attack.
So now Django is very beefy. And I'm in trouble. I activate Solar Tree. Affect the Solar Tree.
Oh, alright.
So I can add a Solar Nut to my hand, right?
You can add any Solar Fruit.
Well, the build that you gave me only has Solar Nut and Speed Nut, or Tiptoe Nut, so I'm going to add Solar Nut.
And actually, don't forget that includes a Revive.
Oh yeah, but I don't even know what that card does. Okay, so I can send one Solar Gun card from my deck to the graveyard, add one Solar... Oh, I'm boned. Well, I summon to the graveyard. Yeah, that's probably game.
You have no options.
Yeah. I add this to my hand, and end my turn. And with that, Shadross is going to attack me directly for game. So, Istrakhan is a very interesting archetype overall, and it's kind of got a lot of strengths and weaknesses, but the ability to just completely fuck your opponent over by sending 6 of their cards to the graveyard potentially while having a 4,500 beater is pretty impressive. Especially when you consider that that beater can't be destroyed in battle, and the fact that this archetype has consistency that could make Nekraz blush on occasion. So
things to point out, Istrakhan builds up, well, at least this specific build will build up on one monster by sacrificing the ability to swarm monsters. that single one. It's very protect the castle-like in that sense.
And while a kaiju can mess it up pretty badly, you do have to OTK immediately after that. Otherwise, they will just get another Django and they will just fuck you up. So it's important to just play your cards right against this Can and be careful.
Tech options would be lose one turn. Let's see if I can find it. Lone Fire Blossom's always pretty solid. We can't see any art on it because of
dual worlds restrictions. And Lone Fire is run because of Tanko here. I know he didn't show up much in this duel, but he's basically a deck special for Django. He's useful.
Lita?
Lita is, I believe he searches a Solar Tree. Yep.
And I think that's mostly it, except for my one-of copies of... around them. So, let's see, I think you would have them. I believe Tiptoe Nut and Revive a Fruit, possibly?
I don't think I didn't put in Revive a Fruit. Yeah, I didn't. But I do have Tiptoe Nut. Tiptoe Nut is basically, it can attack directly. This also leads to a OTK build of Can that attacks 5 times directly with Django. It's as stupid as it sounds, but it's amazing. So
it's pretty funny.
So with that, we're going to end up today's episode of Archetype Interviews, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.